All right, hello again everyone, and welcome to part 2 of our Google Forms creation tutorial. In the first segment, we looked at basic form setup and what some of the basic tools do. In this segment, we're going to look at question creation and the various types of questions. So, here we go. We're going to have our form open. I'm going to use the Chapter 1 quiz that I started making previously. And so I'm on my home screen, or the editing screen as I'll refer to it. And I'm going to, at the top, first thing, make it into a quiz. So to do this, I had my icons, I had my theme and my preview, and then my gear for settings. I'm going to choose settings. Of my 3 choices, general, presentation, and quizzes, I will choose quizzes. And I want to turn on the button that says make this a quiz. When I do that, all of a sudden I have more options. Let me explain what these mean to you. Release grade immediately after each submission. What that will allow is when your students finish their quiz and click the submit button at its completion, they will have a button available that says view score. They can click that and they can immediately see what grade they got. If you don't want that, if there's questions that you need to manually grade, or if you don't want students having their scores right away for whatever reason, you could change it to later after manual review for releasing their scores. Down below, what can your respondents see? Can they see the questions they missed? Can they see the correct answers for those questions that were missed? And can they see the point values? Now, personally, I like to leave correct answers unchecked, and that is for test security purposes. I don't want a student who has me first period to take a quiz, see that they missed a question, but also see the right answer, and then go tell their best friend about it at lunch before that friend comes to me during 7th hour, for example. So for test security, I generally like to turn off the correct answers. The student can see what they missed, and they can see how many points it was worth, but we'll review the correct answers later when all the assessments are done. Again, that's a personal preference. So I'm going to click Save, and I'm back on my editing screen now. Now, we're going to go ahead and set up some questions. If you'll notice at the upper right corner now, I have a button that says Total Points, and right now it's 0. But as we start adding questions and answers, that tally will come up. So to begin, we're going to click on Add Question on the right side. It's the plus button. And I always like to begin with a name question just for the sake of data collection and making sure that we don't lose anybody's information. You may have noticed as I was typing that it was set as a multiple choice question, and then it automatically updated and became a short answer because the program anticipates for me that this is something someone's going to be typing instead of just choosing from a list. So that is correct, so I'm going to leave it alone. I do need to look at a couple of things though. I need to make sure that this question is turned on as required. So I'll click the slider in the bottom right corner. And now my respondent, my student, cannot submit this form without answering that question. It will not allow them to do so. Also, you may notice in the lower left corner, now we have an answer key button, a link. It says it's worth 3 points because that's how I have my forms program set up as a default. I don't want my name question worth any points. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on here, and on the grade screen, I'm going to change this 3 to a 0. And I'm going to click Edit Question, and it'll get me back where I was. Now it's not worth any points, but the question's still there. Okay, now to make questions that grade themselves, we are going to, again, we're going to click our Add Question button on the right side. We'll get a brand new box, and we will add our first question. So if I were to do this, and I put number 1, and then my question, since it's Chapter 1, we'll do To Kill a Mockingbird, which is my favorite book. And we're just going to say, who is the narrator of the story? Now, the computer automatically guessed it's a multiple choice question, so that's fine with me. I'll go ahead and put in some choices here real quick. Okay. Now, here's how we change it to make it grade for us. We're going to make it a required question, of course. And then on our answer key button, we're going to go ahead and choose that. I have my points. Again, it's set to 3. Let's say I want to make it worth 5 points per question. I can do that. I can make it worth whatever I want. And now I need to answer it. So who is the narrator? The answer to that is Scout. I want to make sure that's the right answer. It's going to highlight and check it. I'm going to click Edit Question. And when I come back to my editing screen, the correct answer is checked. So that is simply how you do that. And this method works for several types of questions. If I were to, I have multiple choice here, of course. If I were to do check boxes, the question would also allow you to grade it. The difference is it would allow you to choose more than one answer. So if I was making a question that said, which of the following is not a character in the story, and then I listed 8 or 10 names and I needed 3 of them checked, check boxes would allow us to do that. All right. I also have drop down I can choose. Drop down will just give you a menu with an arrow, and students can choose from a list instead of choices. It works just like multiple choice. Okay. If it is a typed response, such as short answer or paragraph, that will not grade for you. You will have to manually read through their answers and then put in the computer what kind of points they earned on it. So, as long as your assessment is all multiple choice, checkboxes, or drop-down questions, it will completely grade the entire assessment. If you have short answer or paragraph answers, we'll put those on the end of the test, and then we'll just review them and manually tack those points onto the final score. No big deal. Okay, so that's pretty much how we do this. I'm going to add one more quick question, just like I did the previous one. So I'm going to give it a number, and I'm going to say what town is the setting of the novel. Again, it's set as multiple choice. I have my choices now. I'm going to require my question. I'm going to choose answer key. I want this to be worth the same amount as number 1, so I'm going to change it to 5 points. I'm going to pick the right answer and go back to edit question. And I will just keep on rolling until my test is made. As I do this, up in the upper right corner, those total points are now up to 10. That's how many points this assessment is worth at this point. The more questions I add, the more that number will grow. Now, in order to make sure that you have done this correctly, the safest thing to do is to take your test yourself before you ever send it to students, before you ever post it on your LMS or Google Classroom or any of those pages. So to do so, we're going to go up to our top right bar, and we're going to click the icon that says Preview. It looks like an eyeball. So I'm going to do this, and it's going to open a new tab. This is what this form looks like to the people who are actually using it and seeing it. I can no longer edit it. I can just see it on this screen. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and take my own test to make sure the answer key is correct. So under name, I usually put teacher when I do this. And then I'm going to answer number 1, who is the narrator? Okay. Number 2, what town is the setting? Okay. And this is also a good time before I submit this to show you that we can look and see if we have any typos, any blanks that shouldn't be there, if we left off a question mark, something like that. We can see it, and then we can go back to our edit screen and fix it before we pass this out to the kids. Over here on the right side, I can see how many points each question is worth. I've answered them. I'm going to click Submit. I'll get a button that says View Score. And when I do so, it tells me that I have scored 10 out of 10. And it shows me the answer to each question that I responded and that it was correct. So, since this looks good, I am going to go ahead and just close this tab out. I'm going to get rid of that one too, and I'm going to wind up back on my form home screen where I can keep adding questions and where all of my information is gathered. In our next video, we'll take a look at how to look at these responses and gather data. So I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.